a great camouflage. The problem is if you dress yourself as a bush, the moment you move, you cease to be a bush. Hello, I'm Mears. For more than 40 years I've been teaching bushcraft and survival and tracking skills and working to connect people with nature. I've just written a new book called We Are Nature, which is all about just that. And today I'm going to take a look at some survival movies and have a look to see whether or not they're accurate. So let's take a look at Castaway. If ever there was a survival film, that's it. This is great. He's making fire using a technique called the fire plough. The fire plough is used through the Pacific, in some parts of Australia and in Central Africa. I wouldn't normally use a split piece of wood for the base and normally just plough in a groove and sometimes peel a shaving back to hold the ember together. But it's pretty good, and it looks like they're using the right wood here. That looks to me like coastal hibiscus, which is a very good wood for this process. The difficult thing about the fire plough is it needs a huge amount of energy, even when you've got the perfect technique. So if you are hungry or you haven't been eating properly, that can really impact whether you're successful or not. That's brilliant. I mean, when I look at it, I think the director was kind to Tom Hanks. Maybe he had some help there. The energy that's really needed to make this work is considerably more than you're seeing there. But when it works, it looks just like this. You create a very fine dust from the friction of the two pieces of wood. It looks like very fine grains of coffee. They come together and they get hotter and hotter. And eventually you do get some smoke starts to rise from that. And as you can see, he's put some coconut husk fibres into the notch as tinder. It's perfect. It's good. I love that scene. I don't know how many thousands of people I've talked to make fire by friction, but that is how you feel the first time you do it. In some strange, unique way, it defines humanity. The thing that makes us different to other animals is that we can create fire. And the moment somebody does that for the first time is very, very special, because at that moment, in some way, you break a total dependence on the civilized world, and you reach to a much more ancient feeling of self-reliance. And I think he captures that so well on this. And of course, once you've got fire, you've got light, you've got warmth, a means to boil water, a means to cook food, a means to alter other materials around you, to make glue, to harden things, and you can signal with it. But most importantly of all, it makes you feel good. And that, I think, this film captures absolutely perfectly. Let's take a look at The Revenant. The bear attack sequence that we've just seen is quite interesting. It shows the ferocity of a grizzly bear, what it can do if things go wrong. That we are just a rag doll by comparison to a grizzly bear. And you also see how they attack with their teeth. Many of the trained bears that are used in the movies are trained to do this action for a reward. But actually a bear will bite, just as a dog will. Its main weaponry are its teeth. If you're attacked by a grizzly bear like this, there's no point trying to fight back, because you're not hiding to nothing. But the chances that a grizzly bear will eat you are very, very slim. It doesn't really want to eat you. It's more interested in other foods. It'll attack you mostly out of defense of young, because you're too close to a food cache, or simply because it feels threatened. I've had a close encounter with a grizzly bear where one was standing within arm's reach of me, and I came to no harm because I made it quite clear to the bear that I wasn't a threat to it. And the bear wasn't looking for a fight, we just blundered into each other. And the bear backed off and moved away, and as did I. One of the key things about a close encounter with a bear is not to stare it in the eye, because that is seen as a sign of threat. So it's counterintuitive. You have to look down and away. It's very difficult to not stare into a bear's eyes, because actually when you are that close to one, the first thing that you realize is how beautiful their eyes are, and you see their intelligence when you look into their eye. And there is this innate desire to communicate with the bear, which they don't understand. Some years ago, I interviewed a lady who had been attacked by a bear. She'd found herself in a very similar situation. And she said to me, I looked into the bear's eyes and they were so beautiful, I couldn't take my eyes off of them. And because she didn't take her eyes off of them, the bear saw that as a threat. And the net result is it bit her in the face, and she was quite badly injured. But of course not eaten, she was left alone. The bear was just warning her off. But unfortunately, human skin is like tissue paper compared to the teeth of a bear. It's worth remembering that 99.9% of bear attacks are caused by human stupidity, not because the bears are out to get you. And I think that actually is quite well shown here. The horse wouldn't yet have frozen at those temperatures, and an experienced mountain man might have taken part of the intestine, turned it inside out, put snow in it, tied it up and popped it into the cavity of the animal so that he gets a drink. Staying hydrated is really important to staying warm. When I've worked with the Inuit in the very north of Canada, I've seen them do exactly that with a caribou. And then once it's melted, they can take a block of snow and suck the water through the snow, and the snow acts as a filter. And we see him here climbing into the horse to escape the attention of a blizzard. And this has been shown a few times, and of course there's the famous scene from one of the Star Wars movies as well. But I think Hollywood's probably forgotten where it has its origins, and this is based on a real event. It was recorded by a man who, as an infant, was captured by a Plains Indian tribe, and he grew up as one of them. And on a hunting trip, they got into trouble in a blizzard, and they shot a buffalo, and they sheltered the night inside the carcass of a buffalo. So it has its origins in truth, and of course it would work. It's a pretty good depiction, I think, in a well done Leonardo DiCaprio. The really experienced woodsman or First Nation in those circumstances would do one other thing before they climbed into that carcass, and that is that they would prepare the makings of a fire for the next day. Because in the morning, even in the protection of that carcass, when they get out in the morning, it's going to be very cold, and they're going to be very cold. So having the means to make fire for the next day already prepared makes a huge difference. It's a pity that they didn't show that, because that's the sort of thing that someone with these skills would do as a matter of course. So let's take a look at the office.
It's hot today. The sun is in the 2/3 easterly quadrant, which would make it about 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, I think if the sun's in the easterly quadrant, it's probably in the morning. So but I'm sure he's done that deliberately.
I am totally alone right now with only my thoughts. I love it. I can literally say anything I want. No one is going to hear me. Wish I could have gone with Ryan on that cool retreat!
I think this just captures the modern genre for survival films, where people are given a camera and they have to film themselves, and then they have to think of something to say when probably there's nothing to say. That's not why I go outdoors. For me, it's not about reflecting on how you feel about the outdoors. It's about actually feeling being there, allowing nature to reach out and talk to you. And to do that, you need to keep quiet.
Those are nature's best mushrooms.
No! No! Give him up!
And that's the best bit in the whole clip, because should you see a child putting unknown fungi into their mouth, that's what you need to do, because if they get it wrong, there's no way back. So let's take a look at Liam Neeson's film, The Grey. This is really a Hollywood depiction of wolves. Wolves aren't really a threat to human beings. If you were injured and on your own, perhaps in bad circumstances, wolves could pose you a threat. But mostly, they know to keep away from people. Even if we take the view that these wolves are going to have a pop at these men, what you see, the snarling that you see at the moment, you're not going to see snarling until they're actually much closer. They're more likely to see snarling like this between two wolves fighting over a bite of meat. Films like this, they support a myth really, and I find that really sad. Wolves have been very, very badly treated by humanity around the planet. I wish even those people who dislike them and seek to hunt them would take a little longer to understand them, because they are the most incredible creatures. It's quite eerie, isn't it? That wolf is suddenly there. And obviously in the film this is a sort of a demonic wolf. But wolves do suddenly appear like that. I've had several occasions where I've turned around to find a couple of wolves looking at me, watching what I'm doing with curiosity. One of the strange things about a wolf is that when it looks at you, it seems to look inside you. It has almost X-ray vision. They check you out. It's a very spooky feeling, and they can give you that sense from a long distance. But I've also play the same game on the wolf. Some years ago I was filming in Idaho, and I had a day off, and I went out to track some wolves, and I came across the trail of a big alpha male in very soft sand going up a remote valley, and I had to walk a few miles before I eventually found a really clear set of footprints, and I cast them in plaster. This is the track of that wolf, and you can see the size of the wolf's track compared to my hand. If this wolf had stood on his hind feet, he'd have been looking me in the eye, and I'm 6'1", so it gives you some idea of the size of the animal. While this plaster was hardening, I lay down in the sagebrush and had a little nap. All of a sudden I sensed a presence, so I very, very carefully sat up and looked across the top of the sage, and there was the wolf that had laid the tracks, looking at the plaster, wondering what was going on. And he hadn't seen me, and he was only a few meters away. And I sat there for ages watching this wolf, and the wolf was looking, the wind was blowing his fur, and he was looking at those cast bits of plaster, trying to puzzle out what the strange humans are up to now. And eventually I smiled, because I wanted to see what reaction I'd get. It only took a smile for the wolf to notice that I was there. And then we looked for a moment, we looked each other cold in the eye, and then the wolf left, and it was very special. And moments like that, I think, are unique. They live with you forever. Very much that experience was the inspiration for the book that I've just written. Now this is a film I really love, The Wilderpeople. It's just great.
What the?
I mean, to start with, it's very New Zealand. They got their swannies on, pack and rifle, a beanie on the head. It's so New Zealand, it's lovely. There's a long tradition of tramping in the hills like this in New Zealand, and it's great to see that represented on screen. I'm sure that Kiwis watching this it'll reach into their heart and make them chuckle in a way that is lost perhaps on a large part of the audience.
Can you see that bush over there?
Yeah. Is it a man or a bush? Man! Bushman!
I really like that. I think that's fantastic. You know, I prefer movies that make you laugh, and you know, it's side-splitting, isn't it? And great camouflage. The problem is, if you dress yourself as a bush, the moment you move, you cease to be a bush. And now we've got wild.
How's this working for you?
I stink. I stink all the time, and my armpits are the least of it.
Are you having much fun with these?
I've never used them once. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking with the saw.
When people first start hiking, they always carry too much gear. I'm often asked, very often asked, what is the one luxury I always take on a trip? And the answer is very simple. It's the thing I didn't bring with me because it's not burdening me down.
I couldn't take pictures at night. Never.
You need the whole roll?
What woman goes on a hike and brings 12 condoms?
It's a great clip, isn't it? And this guy's doing her a massive favour in lightening her pack. I think the best way really would have actually been to just put on a table what she needed. The older you get, the lighter your pack needs to get, and the more you realise you've been carting stuff you never needed with you. There will always be a few items that you perhaps have never used that you might need, and that's your medical kit. But beyond that, you hardly need anything when you travel in the wild. And I think that what the film hints to really well is that in lightening her physical burden, in some way it's lightening her emotional and spiritual burden as well. The lighter you are in that sense, the more receptive you are to the experience of being on the trail in the first place. And here we've got Moonrise Kingdom, beautiful little film.
Here's where we are right now. I'd like to pitch camp here by 1600, which means 4 o'clock. How's that sound?
Fine.
You want some beef jerky?
Okay.
Let's go.
I love the innocent enthusiasm of youth. I think it's fantastic. In today's world, it can be difficult sometimes to get people, youngsters, out from behind their computer screens to actually do things. And this film I think, encapsulates that burgeoning interest in exploration and going places and doing things really beautifully. And it's magical.
Are you thirsty?
No, thank you.
Well, if your throat gets parched, stick a pebble in your mouth and suck on it. You can quench your thirst with the spit, supposedly.
Sucking on a pebble is an old thing. It's used all around the world in desert areas. It doesn't give you any moisture, clearly. It doesn't moisten your mouth. But what it does is it keeps your mouth shut. So in desert areas, you're not losing so much moisture by respiring through your mouth. So that is an old trick. And obviously, this young lad is supposed to have read that somewhere in one of the old books. And I think that's great.
Here's a trick. Throw pine needles in the air and you can see which direction the wind is blowing.
Which way?
I guess it doesn't really matter.
It's a wonderful film. It encapsulates so much. When they take those bags across the river, that's so typical of youngsters. You know, they'll do something the difficult way because they want to try something and do something new and exciting. And I think that's you know, it's a really interesting observation. Of course, as you become more experienced, you look for the simplest ways to do things. But we all start here, and when I watch this, it reminds me of my childhood when I first set out and I didn't have the equipment that I would have today. Sleeping out without a sleeping bag. And the strange thing is, when I look back, maybe I'm just getting too old, but I don't remember any hardship. I just remember the adventure. And I think that's what this film captures, that youthful sense of adventure and freedom. It's lovely. It's great to look at these clips and to see how Hollywood conveys things. I think what's heartening is the way the spirit that is behind the physical activities is so well captured. I love the film The Hunt for the Wilderpeople. That's a beautiful film. And it has so much to say about life, the world, and everything. And also, it's not too serious. You know, it makes you laugh, and I think that's what we all need, particularly right now. So, thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more videos like this, you can subscribe to the Penguin YouTube channel. You can find a link just here. And if you'd like to know more about my book, We Are Nature, we'll put the details in the link below. All the very best to you.